Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you are doing very well. So welcome to this class. In this today's class, we are going to discuss some basic concepts of chemistry, and from this chapter we are going to discuss the particular topic, that is Dalton's atomic theory, which is very important. You know very well, in the previous class we had discussed five basic laws, right? In the category of laws of chemical combination. Okay, so I want to give you an idea what are the points that we had discussed in the previous class. Then we are going to start this today's class. In the previous class, actually we had discussed the laws of chemical combination, and you know these laws of chemical combinations are very important because John Dalton used the idea of these laws of chemical combination, and he put forwarded his atomic theory on nature of matter, that is named as Dalton's atomic theory. In this laws of chemical combination, we had studied the five basic laws. I am writing the name of these laws. The first one is the law of conservation of mass. The first law is law of conservation of mass. The second law is law of definite proportion. Law of definite proportion by mass. The third law is law of multiple proportion. The third law is law of multiple proportion. The fourth law is law of, or you can say Gay-Lussac law. Of gaseous volumes. This law is also named as Gay-Lussac law of gaseous volume, is also named as law of definite proportion by volume. And the fifth law is Avogadro's law. Fifth law is Avogadro's law. These are the five basic laws that we had discussed in our previous class, and based on the ideas of these laws, now today we are going to discuss the Dalton's atomic theory, which is also very important. You know the definitions of these laws, like according to law of conservation of mass, matter can neither be created nor be destroyed. And in the law of definite proportion by mass, like if you are taking any compound, it contains the same elements with the same mass ratio. Like if you are taking CO2, the mass ratio of these elements will be, carbon ratio oxygen will be 3:8. Law of multiple proportion, if you are taking like hydrogen and oxygen, if same elements are combining to give more than one compounds, right? So let's suppose I am taking the example of H2 plus O2 gives H2, and similarly another time H2 plus O2 gives H2O2. So if same elements are combining and they are giving more than one compound, so the elements which is combining with a fixed mass, like this is 2 gram, 16 gram, and the next time it is also combining with the fixed mass, that is 2 gram, but this time the mass of this particular element like O2 is changing from 16 to 32. So they are combining in a simplest whole number ratio, that means 16:32. It comes out to be 1:2. They are present in the simplest whole number ratio. Okay, that's about the law of multiple proportion. Then we had covered Gay-Lussac law of gaseous volumes and Avogadro's law. Gay-Lussac law of gaseous volume is saying that if in a chemical reaction, you can say gases are combining or produced, hydrogen plus oxygen gives, hydrogen plus oxygen gives water vapors. So what will happen if 100 ml of hydrogen is combining with 50 ml of oxygen? You will get 100 ml of water. So these gases are combining in simple ratio. 100 ratio 50 will be 2 ratio 1. This law is also named as law of definite proportion by volume. And the next one that we had discussed is the Avogadro's law. Avogadro law states that equal volume of all gases contains equal number of molecules at the same temperature and pressure. It means you can say V directly proportional to N. V directly proportional to N. V is the volume of the gas and N is the number of molecules, you can say. Okay, and you can say like N represent number of moles. And in 1 mole, if you are asking the number, what is the number? That will be 6.022 into 10 raised to power 23. If I am saying 1 mole molecule, so it will be 6.022 into 10 raised to the power 23 molecules. Okay, these are the points that we had discussed in our previous class, which is the these are the laws of chemical combinations. And today we are going to start this Dalton's atomic theory. So let's begin this Dalton's atomic theory. So in this Dalton's atomic theory, John Dalton provided his postulates. So what are the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory? Let's understand one by one. Matter is composed of small indivisible particles called atoms. And this atom word comes from this word, that is alpha tomio. It is meaning indivisible, uncuttable, right? Matter is something that has mass and occupies some space and can be perceived by our senses. That is known as matter. Okay, I hope these things are very much clear to you, that what is matter and what is matter made up of. Matter is made up of the smallest particles, that is known as atom. That is the point here. Matter is composed of small indivisible particles called atoms. And this atom word comes from this word alpha tomio. Alpha tomio means uncuttable or indivisible, you can say. In 1808, John Dalton published a new system of chemical philosophy in which he proposed the following things. What he proposed? He put forwarded his atomic theory and he put forwarded some postulates, and named as, this theory is named as Dalton's atomic theory. What he said? He said that matter consists of indivisible atoms. What he said? He said that matter consists of indivisible atoms. Not only John Dalton, some other scientists, you can say, or chemists, you can say, or Maharshis, you can say, like Maharshi Kanad, Democritus, Leucippus, Pakuda Katyayama, they were also saying the same thing. If you are dividing the matter, you will get the smallest thing. That is known as atom. Some are saying like if you are dividing the matter, ultimately you will get the smallest thing, that is known as molecule. Okay. Some are saying like parmanu, or some are saying anu. Okay. And some Maharshis are saying like matter, which is padharth, right? Which is padharth. When you are dividing matter, you will get the small, ultimately you will get the smallest thing, that is known as atom. This is very interesting part. Till John Dalton, this fact is that atom is the smallest thing. But after that, certain discoveries and other scientists came and they said that atom is not the smallest thing. I want to give you an overview of the next class as well. Atom is not the smallest thing. Atom can be divided. Atom is not the smallest thing. Atom can be divided. It means you can say atom is made up of subatomic particles. Atom is made up of what? Subatomic particles. So let's come back to the postulates of John Dalton. John Dalton said that, what he said? John Dalton said that, you can see here, matter consists of indivisible atoms, uncuttable atoms. It means matter can neither be created nor be destroyed during a balanced chemical equation. If a chemical equation is happening like A plus B gives AC, AB, I'm giving you a simple example, and you are saying whatever the element is present here, A, the same element will be here, A. For example, if you are taking any reaction, like you are taking H2 plus Cl2 gives 2HCl, you can see if you are writing like H2 plus Cl2 gives H2O, it will be wrong, because the older substances or the initial substances that are known as reactants, that are reacting with each other and they are interacting and transforming themselves into new substances, these new substances are known as products. But in case of product, oxygen is here, and in reactants no oxygen is available, no oxygen atom or molecule is available. So you can say that matter can neither be created nor be destroyed, and this is not possible. This is not possible. If you are saying this is not possible, so definitely this is not possible, and John Dalton provided this point in his postulate. He said that matter can neither be created nor be destroyed, or even you can say atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed. They are just only, you can say they are just only rearranged during the chemical reactions. They are rearranged during the chemical reactions. I hope you are getting a clear idea regarding this point. Okay, I want to go to the next point, which is a very simple point. It is saying that all atoms of a given element have identical properties, including identical mass as well. Suppose you are taking nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, sulfur, chlorine, etc. You know 118 elements are present in the periodic table. You know the periodic table. You know that periodic table is divided into 4 blocks. Don't worry, we will be discussing these points in the next upcoming chapters, which is classification of elements and periodicity in properties. Okay, and before this we will be discussing a structure of atom as well. Okay, but so far you have to discuss only some basic concepts of chemistry. What are the basic concepts that makes the amazing chemistry, that makes the chemistry amazing? This is like how periodic table looks. You can see here it looks like this, and you have learned about the periodic table in your previous grades, like grade 10 as well. Okay, in this periodic table 118 elements are properly organized and placed. My point is here, if you are taking some examples like nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, sulfur, chlorine, etc., you can see nitrogen element is made up of nitrogen atoms. Atoms of what? Nitrogen. Oxygen element is made up of oxygen atoms. Fluorine element is made up of fluorine atoms. Sulfur element is made up of sulfur atoms, and chlorine atom is made up of chlorine. Chlorine element is made up of chlorine atoms. It means you can say they are elements, they are simplest pure substances, so they have constant composition and constant properties throughout the sample. Or you can say, if we are taking nitrogen atom, 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 or nitrogen atom, we have taken 8 nitrogen atom. Then these 8 nitrogen atom, if I am comparing the mass of this nitrogen with other nitrogens, so suppose the mass is x gram, so it will also x gram. It will also x gram, because the mass and like weight will be same for this, same for this. So if I want to say, if the atoms of the same element, you can take any atom of the same element, they have the same mass, they have the same properties like radius, atomic mass, metallic character, non-metallic character, it will be same. So I'm again repeating this point. Suppose you are taking fluorine atoms. So atoms of a given element, or atoms belongs to the same element, the atoms which belongs to the same element having the same mass, same properties, etc. Identical mass and identical properties. This is the second point. If I will go with the third point, the third point is saying that if you are taking the atoms of different elements, suppose you have taken atom of nitrogen and you have taken atom of fluorine. If you are taking atom of nitrogen and fluorine, they have different properties. In this case, same properties, or like you can say same mass. But in this case, different properties. And different mass. Different properties in the sense you can say nitrogen is less electronegative, fluorine is most electronegative. The size of nitrogen and fluorine is different. The reactions, chemical reactions of nitrogen and fluorines are different. And you can see if the atoms of different, if the atoms are belonging to different elements, so definitely they have different properties, different mass. They have not identical properties and identical mass. Okay, and this is according to John Dalton atomic theory, and this is the postulate number 3. Matter consists of indivisible atoms. First postulate: all atoms of given elements have identical properties, including identical mass as well. This is the second postulate. And atoms of different elements are differ in mass, they have different properties. This is the third postulate. If you are comparing nitrogen with oxygen, fluorine, not only these two elements or three elements, you can compare any two, any three, any four elements as well. Okay, the next point is that the next postulate according to John Dalton, which is compounds are formed when atoms of different elements combined in a fixed ratio. You know, law of definite proportion by mass. The same statement is there. The compounds that are formed here, like CO2, like SO2, like HCl, like HBr, like HNO3, like H2SO4, like NaCl, like KCl, like FeSO4, like CuCO3, like CaSO4, like ZnSO4, like NH3, etc., etc. So many compounds I can write. My point is here, when compounds are formed when atoms of different elements combine in a fixed ratio. This CO2 is formed when atoms of different elements combine in a fixed ratio. Carbon ratio oxygen you can take is always 1:2 in carbon dioxide, irrespective of source, weight, volume, and everything. In ammonia, the nitrogen and hydrogen number will be same. It is 1:3. Not only number, you can take the mass ratio of nitrogen to hydrogen, it will remain same. It will remain same. If I will take the mass ratio, then nitrogen atomic mass is 14, and in ammonia 3 hydrogens are there, so the mass ratio of nitrogen to hydrogen respectively will be 14:3. Respectively will be 14:3. If you are taking the mass ratio in case of carbon dioxide, carbon ratio oxygen, it comes out to be 12:32, and if you will go with the simplest ratio, it comes out to be 3:8. It is very interesting point that the ratio of masses of elements in compounds is same irrespective of the source, weight, and volume, right? And if you are comparing even the numbers, the numbers of elements present in any compound is fixed, is constant. In ZnSO4, in zinc sulfate, always one zinc atom, one sulfur, and 4 oxygen are present. Right? In ammonia, one nitrogen, 3 hydrogens are there. In sulfur dioxide, one sulfur, 2 oxygens are there. If you are saying you are not exhaling carbon dioxide at your home, you are exhaling at your school, so definitely it the number of carbon dioxide, that means the number of carbon present in carbon dioxide or oxygen present in carbon dioxide will get changed. No, what a silly question, na? They will not change. They will not change. Because when atoms of different elements are combining, they are combining in a fixed ratio chemically, right? Compounds are formed chemically. So compounds are formed when atoms of different elements combine in a fixed ratio. Okay. The next point is here, chemical reactions involve reorganization of atoms, means rearrangement of atoms. What can you say? Rearrangement of atoms. Rearrangement of atoms, and these are neither created nor destroyed in a chemical reactions. Atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed in a chemical reaction. Even the, suppose water is there, so irrespective of the source, the hydrogen ratio oxygen, the mass ratio of hydrogen to oxygen in case of water will be same, will be fixed, irrespective of the source, weight, volume, and everything. The mass ratio will be 2:16 and the simplest will be 1:8. Not only this, the atoms that are combining to form a particular compound will be also fixed. If I am saying carbon dioxide, so always one carbon, 2 oxygens, and even carbon and oxygen are there only. If I am saying CH2, is it carbon dioxide? No. Carbon dioxide means carbon and oxygens are combining, and one carbon and 2 oxygens are combining to form carbon dioxide. If I am saying ammonia, is it NH? No. Is it NH2? No. This will be NH3 definitely. This is named as ammonia. If I am saying sulfuric acid, so it will be HNO3. No. HNO3 is nitric acid and sulfuric acid will be H2SO4. It means the combining atoms are also same. The mass ratio will be same. The combining atoms are same. The number of combining atoms to form a compound is also same. It is very interesting point, and these are the points that are put forwarded by John Dalton in his atomic theory, and this theory is named as Dalton's atomic theory. These are the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. I hope you got a clear idea that what are the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. But certain limitations are also there. Dalton was not able to explain certain points. Let's understand this point. You can see here the drawbacks of Dalton's atomic theory. Dalton's atomic theory could explain the laws of chemical combination, but it could not explain the laws of gaseous volumes. It could not explain the laws of gaseous volumes, and also it could not provide the reason for combining of atom, for combination of atoms, and which was answered by the later scientist, by the other scientist. This is about the Dalton's atomic theory. So I hope you got a clear idea about the Dalton's atomic theory. First of all, I want to give you an idea that what will be the points that we are going to discuss in the next class, and then we will be recalling the today's session, and then we will finish this class. Okay, so in the next class we are going to discuss atomic mass, the term atomic mass, in which we will be discussing atomic mass, relative atomic mass, average atomic mass, as well as a simple term AMU, or you can say U will be there, and we will be discussing this AMU, atomic mass unit, right? Atomic mass unit. Okay, and after that we will be discussing U, which is unified mass. Then we will be discussing molecular mass, and formula unit mass as well. The average atomic mass the average atomic mass we will be discussing in this atomic mass term. Okay, so this is an overview of the next class. These are the topics that we are going to discuss in the next class. So let's quickly recall what are the topics that we had covered today. So today we had covered Dalton's atomic theory. Today we had covered Dalton's atomic theory, which is an important theory. So actually John Dalton put forward his atomic theory based on the laws of chemical combination. He used the ideas of laws of chemical combination and put forward his atomic theory named as Dalton's atomic theory. According to Dalton's atomic theory, certain postulates are there. So I want to go with the postulate number 1. Postulate number 1 is saying that atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed, and atoms are only rearranged during the chemical reactions. Okay, so you can say matter can neither be created nor be destroyed, only rearrangement of atoms are possible during the chemical reaction, and matter consists of indivisible atoms, uncuttable atoms. According to John Dalton, matter consists atoms which are indivisible and which are uncuttable. All atoms of given element, you can take any element, nitrogen, sulfur, oxygen, fluorine, titanium, vanadium, molybdenum, etc. They have identical properties if they are belonging to the same element, including identical mass as well. Their electronegativity, metallic nature, non-metallic nature, right, and other properties as well. Atomic radius, ionic radius, etc. Atoms, if you are taking atoms of different element, if you are comparing nitrogen with fluorine, if you are comparing chlorine, fluorine, if you are comparing neon, oxygen, then they are having different atoms. So if different atoms are there, so atoms of different elements, they definitely differ in mass and differ in properties as well. They definitely differ in mass, different properties. Certain exceptions will be there. We are not going to discuss exceptions. We are just saying the general thing. The next is compounds which are formed like CO2, SO2, methane, ethane, propane, ammonia, right, etc. These are formed when atoms of different elements combine in a fixed ratio. Okay. I hope you are clear that compounds are formed when atoms of different elements combine in a fixed ratio. Chemical reactions involve reorganization of atoms, and these are neither created nor destroyed in a chemical reactions. So this is all about the Dalton's atomic theory that we had discussed today, and then we had discussed the drawbacks of Dalton's atomic theory. That Dalton's theory could explain the laws of chemical combinations properly, but it could not explain the laws of gaseous volumes, and it could not provided the reason for combining of atoms, combination of atoms, which was answered by like later scientists or other scientists. Okay everyone, so thank you so much. We will meet soon in the next class with the next topics, that will be the atomic mass, molecular mass, formula mass, AMU or unified. These terms we will be discussing in the next class. So thank you again, have a nice day, take care and goodbye.